So I hope all of you guys are doing well out there. I thought I'd actually give you guys a quick glimpse on the next drawing that I've been working on. So kind of sketching away the Roman centurion over here. And I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of give you guys a glimpse into my process and how I actually go about drawing figures from imagination. Because that's the problem with these more historical artworks is, I don't really have a model to reference from wearing a full suit of Roman armor, and especially when you want to design your characters and get them in a certain pose, you do have to learn how to draw anatomy and things like that from imagination. So, this guy is still very much a work in progress, but I thought I'd figure I'd give you guys a bit of a glimpse into how this actually kind of comes about. So this guy's going to be more of a finished drawings, which is why it's kind of taking a while. But basically, it really starts with a bunch of quick sketches. So if I just move him to the side here, I'm just going to pop him on the side there. So you can kind of see and compare what's actually going on here. So this was like the initial sketch page that I did for this guy. You can see here's his portrait down here. Looks a bit different from the final product. I kind of decided that this face was, I don't know, it was cool, but it was a little bit too aggressive. I kind of wanted to soften the expression on the final product a little bit more, just to make it a bit more naturalistic. But you can see how all my figures basically just start out as boxes, right? And so there's not really much anatomy involved in the initial stages of the drawing. It's really just box people. And the reason I use boxes is because it really helps me to figure out the actual perspective of how the figure is being posed. And I would say that's a lot more important than just drawing detailed anatomy, right? So, the anatomy you can lay on top of it, but if you've not got the perspective right, then nothing's gonna look right. And you can see this is like the final pose that I chose for our little Roman soldier. This was actually another variation of the pose right here. So in this one, I thought, because this is quite dramatic, it's like torso leaning forward, and he's standing up straight and is pointing that direction. It was quite a dramatic pose, so I thought maybe I would go for something maybe a little more naturalistic. So you can see in this pose, you've kind of got like his right arm, which was going to be resting on what would be like the hilt of his sword, like right here. So his arm would be resting on there, and then of course, I had him pointing in this direction, and I thought, what if I move the arm, you can see indicated by this arrow, a little bit more forward, and then just sort of foreshorten those proportions. That actually looks really cool. I actually really like the idea for this as a pose. So I think I might revisit this in the future. But yeah, you can see how my drawings just start off as like little sketches of like box people, because I can get the proportions down easily. I can figure out the pose very easily. You can see I've even got like a bit of the lighting scenario sketched in there. There's a shadow shape there, shadow shape there. And I'm also figuring out the perspective of each body part basically. So, I draw the arms as cylinders and the chest and the pelvis and the head as boxes. So you can see this is the side of the head, this is the front of the head. So I've already got a clear idea of what direction he's facing. And you can see how we're seeing the underside of the torso, because that's kind of how the torso is positioned. When you stand up straight, it's kind of got a bit of a forward, it's got like a backwards tilt, and the pelvis actually has a slightly forward tilt, right? So you can actually see the top side of the pelvis. And all of these things can be figured out just by using perspective. And you can see this little man over here, he's just a more refined version of these two, right? So it's like using the box method, but then just putting the anatomy on the top. And you'll notice that the anatomy is not detailed. You know, we've got some indication of abs. We've got the pecs here. You know, we've got the pectoralis major, some biceps here. You can see like there's a slight bulge coming from the tricep, but it's not really all that detailed. You can see the forehead, front of the face there indicated as those angles, but you can see how simplistic that face shape actually is. And then of course we've got like the, what we're about to be the iliac crest of the pelvis. So I can remember the major landmarks, I just can't remember all of the anatomy. So I don't really try to remember all the anatomy, I just try to remember just some of the main muscle groups. And I actually focus more on structure rather than anatomy. You know, I think we can get a bit too carried away with, you know, muscles, bones, all of that thing. I mean, yeah, sure, they're important, but it's actually the structure of things that you want to get right. So, you know, like the arms, of course, are going to be based on the cylinder. You can use a box for the rib cage and the pelvis, and then you can just refine it later on. And typically you're going to get a good result. But that's basically how this guy is being made. So everything has a process to it.